Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. I just want y'all to know, y'all know I'm Dr. Lauren Pitts. This House Talk Pregame. Ronnie and I are breaking up because I will say that I was fully expecting some ignorant, fooling shenanigans that he would beat me up, but he didn't. But I know he's going to because that's what he does. He takes cheap shots. I figured he was going to like secretly bring a 49ers fan into the show or some craziness like this, but he actually did one worse. He is sitting here today and he's going to introduce them. Well, we got an Eagles fan today, an Eagles fan, somebody that just has full bottles of pink Himalayan sea salt rocks and iodized salt and all this foolishness. So I'm fully prepared because I have on my big girl panties today. I'm just fully prepared for the shots that they're going to take while we're having this amazing discussion today. This is House Talk Pregame, folks. Welcome back.
Welcome. Well, thank you for that wonderful intro, Dr. Pitts. Like I said in the pre-show, like the wise poet Young Jeezy said, what's understood does not have to be explained. What I will say though is that this past Sunday night probably foreshadowed a lot of what it might look like mid-January. But I'm no prophet, but history does sometimes repeat itself. But it's all good.
That's why they have memes with middle fingers, y'all. That's all I'm gonna say about that. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey, look, some moments captured in time, are just timeless. They are just wonderful things that we can always reflect upon, and they bring us back to a certain memory, a certain time in our life where we had so much joy, enthusiasm, all that good stuff. So with that being said, let the strays fly today.
Yes, this is their homecoming game today, now. Now.
Welcome back to House Talk Pregame, episode 135. We got a really, really special guest with us today, Mr. David Kitchen. We're going to be introducing him and bringing him on in a few seconds. We got a wonderful topic lined up for you all today. Today's topic is called Built, Not Born. With the right habits, it's likely that everyone can live a healthy, fit life regardless of the genes they were born with. An athlete's ability isn't written in their genes, it's written in their daily routine. The hard part is starting that routine and sticking to it, though. So we brought in Mr. David Kitchen today to talk to us about routine, habits, but also how you can, like I said, how we can talk about these habits on the field and off the field and post-career. So we got a really great topic lined up today. We're going to get into that. Like Dr. Pitts mentioned, I do want to take a few moments real quick to just shout out my young boys at Virginia State University. They are currently 6-0, ranked 24th in the country right now in the Division II polls. They just came off an absolute dragging of those little chihuahuas over at Bowie State. Just an absolute shellacking, like 44-16 during Bowie State's homecoming. We walk in your trap, we take over your trap, make it our homecoming, all that good stuff, and bring the homecoming vibes back here today. Unfortunately, though, it is a very gloomy 61 degrees and pouring down rain today. So I will not be attending the homecoming game because I don't play football no more, so I don't need to be in the rain. I'm good on that. I did my fair share standing in the rain as a watcher, coach, player, all that good stuff. I'm good today. But they're playing Bluefield State today at 2:00. So I'm looking forward to that. I think this is the first time they've played Bluefield State before. And I will say this. So internally, I have a group chat with a lot of my teammates from when I played, which I think is absolutely phenomenal because, being able to, stay in contact with them, like we do, we talk every day. Like there's not a day in the last 5 years since we've had this group chat that we haven't talked with each other. And so one of our teammates is a coach at Virginia State. And so before the season, he was saying how, this might be the greatest Virginia State team to ever walk on campus. Now, being a member of the 2013 and 2014 championship teams at Virginia State, I'm a little biased. We were the first nationally ranked team in Virginia State history. We were the only football team in Virginia State history to make it to the second round of the playoffs. We're the only Virginia State team to win a playoff game. So I might just be a little biased. However, I will say they've looked really phenomenal this year. They look loaded. They look stacked. Offense, defense. They got a couple players who probably might be on some NFL training camp rosters next season.
Nice.
So it's looking really good. I'm rooting for them. I hope they can finish the season strong. They got, I think, maybe one more tough game in the regular season against Union. It just really depends on what Union gonna bring out there. But Virginia State's doing the darn thing. They're the number 2 ranked HBCU team for Division II, number 4 overall out of all HBCUs. So they're doing it. So shout out to the Trojans on the hill over there. Let's get this game today and let's keep this train rolling. So
Coach finally got his rhythm.
Right, finally got his rhythm. Shout out to Coach Frazier. We had him on the show last season. He's doing it big. I know it was maybe a little heart-wrenching for him last week to beat up on his alma mater like that.
Probably.
But hey, it's all good. It's all good. My last thing I had real quick too, and I wanted y'all's opinion on this because me and Dr. Pitts was talking about this earlier, and David, we would love your opinion on this. I just have a question for the people out there listening today. Why is California the only state where you can win the lottery at? I need somebody to answer that for me.
That darn Powerball.
Answer that for me. $1.4 billion to one ticket winner. How? I think the last 3 times it's been over $1 billion, it's been somebody in California to win. Why?
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm mad about it. There's no point in playing the lottery no more because unless I'm going to fly to California, get a ticket in California and see if it wins, there's no point in me playing the lottery no more. So whoever won it, if you're out there listening to me complain right now about you being lucky because you live in California, look, I don't need the I don't need the 1 billion. I'll take the 0.4 part of it. I'm good with that.
Hey, after taxes, they ain't gonna have much left.
Like
out in California.
It's crazy. I have this debate with people all the time about should you take the one-time payment or should you take the 30-year payments? And everybody always says, oh, no, I'm gonna get all my money at one time. Yes, you will get significantly less with one time. However, if you take the 30-year payments, you get significantly more of that money back. If I blow through $20+ million a year as just a regular individual, I don't need it to begin with.
Yeah. Go with the annuity and use it as generational wealth and rock out and invest it so that the annuity grows and leads to more generational wealth.
Right. Yeah. But hey, shout out to that lucky person out there. That was $1 spent well, I guess, whatever, kudos to you for being lucky, for being in California, whatever. Anyways, Dr. Pitts, any news, mental health tips of the week you got before we get started?
No.
Any mental health tips you want to give your beloved Cowboys? I'm pretty sure they could use a pick me up this week.
I feel like, and I don't, obviously because I'm not working with them yet. They've looked flat to me the past couple of weeks. They've come out really, 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 really flat. And I can't help but to think that a big part of that is mental. It's not a lack of talent. It's not. It is not a lack of talent. And I don't want to get, go off on a tangent. Y'all know how I feel. I know everybody has their opinions about Dak and all of that. But I also know this. And Ronnie, you've said this over and over and over again, as many guests on our show have. Football is a team sport. And yes, the QB, you talk about it all the time, regardless of who it is or what team it is, Josh Allen, whoever it is. All the pressure is always going to come on the quarterback. But we have not looked good on both sides of the ball. And there's a holistic culpability for that. You talk about all the time and the beatdowns that y'all have given your teammates in the locker room when they didn't do what they were supposed to do. But we've also talked about the coach-player relationship and what that looks like. And I absolutely positively love Dan Quinn. I do, but we did absolutely nothing. We did nothing, zero, bunch of goose eggs to stop them. We had nothing for them, nothing. My mom was texting me saying, because she's a Cowboys fan too. She was like, I can't take this anymore. She was like, literally, it was I mean, it reminded me, the way I described it to my Eagles clients is, because I can take the best of harassment. It was like a dog dragging its blanket up and down, just up and down. Like you see in the cartoons, the dog with the dirty blue blanket, and he's just running back and forth in front of the house. That's I felt like we were that dirty blue blanket, and we were just being drugged up and down the field, up and down the field, up and down the field. Yes, Dak has to take responsibility and accountability for what his miscues and stuff are, but it has to be a tightening on both sides of the ball. And when you come out looking that flat, I'm like, where's the fire? Where's the passion? Where's the, like, they just looked defeated. And I'm like, what the heck, man? It's like, when I think about, we talk a lot of times about, but though the Detroit Lions are balling out right now. Right. But we've talked about some of the worst teams in the league that have just played horribly, and how they still come out every single solitary game on fire. Mm-hmm. I'm not seeing that fire. And I don't know what that is. So I feel like, I don't know if it's a come to Jesus or a group mental health session. I don't know, but something's going on here, because it's not talent. It's not a lack of talent. It's here.
Maybe they should change the location of their football team. Maybe they should just move from Dallas. Maybe it's just they've been in Dallas too long. It's just something about Dallas, like, just things don't always just come to fruition in Dallas. It could be that. But
I think it's deeper than that, but I'm not going to say it on the air because I don't want to disrupt any chances that I might have to work with the team in the future. Because I got an opinion, but I'm not going to publicly say it. So
my last thing on the Cowboys and 49ers game is, for all my linemen out there, if you wanted to watch a masterclass on being a left tackle, please go watch Trent Williams highlights from that game. Because in all fairness, Micah Parsons is an absolute beast. Don't get me wrong.
Shut him down.
And you've heard me. I'm like, I can be objective. Like, I don't have no gripe with the players. It's the fans that I always got to get a hard time on. But Micah Parsons is a beast. Trent Williams neutralized him.
Yeah,
I mean,
they shut him down.
Micah Parsons was absolutely a non-factor. Every time he lined up on that side against Trent, I'm just like, why do they keep doing that? Send his ass over to the right side. Make him play against the right tackle the whole game, or the center, or the guard. Stop sending him to that side. That is an automatic win for Trent every single time. That man is a first ballot Hall of Fame left tackle. Master class on playing offensive line. I mean, absolutely.
They also, on that, Ronnie, they also double and triple teamed CeeDee Lamb the whole game too. They had nothing for that either. Like, they had our ticket. They had our card, and there was nothing. And what I don't understand is why. I'm like, did y'all thought they was just gonna let you come in? You didn't think that they was gonna do that? You didn't think that they were like, oh, so it's like, you can't blame it on Kelsey Moore anymore. You now you got I'm throwing a blank because it get on my nerves so bad.
I don't even know who the OC is.
Mike McCarthy.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to think of the coach's name. You can't anyway, moving right along. Go ahead. We got some great conversation. I don't need this aggravation. I'm already not sleeping.
Well, so we're going to bring David in. So just give y'all a little background on who David is. So David is the founder of Edge Leadership Academy, which is a consulting speaking business aimed at arming as many people as possible with the skills and mindset necessary for leadership. Prior to the Edge Leadership Academy, David spent 10 years as a college strength and conditioning coach, which included him being the youngest head strength coach in all of the NCAA at the tender age of 24 years old, in the Division I men's basketball program at Georgia Southern University, and for college football at UNLV. However, during the height of the pandemic, when David was offered a contract extension, he chose to leap out on faith, take a step in his direction, and open up Edge Leadership Academy, and also is pursuing his PhD in psychology. So David, welcome to the show, man. How are you this morning?
Man, I appreciate y'all having me. This is gonna be fun, man. This football talk. I'm sitting here listening, and it's just already got the juices flowing, bro. I love that you guys call it pregame too. I'm sitting here. I'm like, man, I might have to go over to my own homecoming this weekend. I got to shout out my alma mater real quick.
Okay,
You
yes,
did your
sir.
love. I got to give them a little love, man. The boys down in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, at Susquehanna University, Division III. We're
Okay.
rocking, man. They dog walked a team last week, 69-0. So we're out here, man. Top 10 in the nation. We're rolling. So
Oh,
I got to
snap.
show a little
Okay.
love to them. They got homecoming today. It's raining here too, so I will not be in attendance. But you got me jacked up. I might dig out the poncho and get myself over there on the sidelines, man. This is
Hey,
this is
that's
it's
what's up.
ball time.
So tell us a little bit. Tell us about your playing career, man.
Yeah, man. So I'm kind of the classic Friday night light sob story, right? So I was very fortunate to play at a high school that has produced Gatorade Players of the Year, national championships, state championships, etc. It's basically we'll put it this way: you don't get a Letterman's jacket unless you win a state playoff game. You don't even get one, and you don't get a signing day event unless you sign Division I. So it's like that kind of place. Like it's state championship or bust. And
Okay.
so I was very fortunate to be a good player on a great team. So shout out to my teammates for letting me ride those coattails. So going into my junior year, I was highly recruited. Small Division I schools had a lot of looks from at that time it was 1AA, FCS. Um, Thought that that's where I was going to end up playing defensive line, offensive line, one of the two. I didn't know which. And then getting ready for my senior year, I blew my knee. So I blew my knee about 2 weeks before the season started, 3 weeks before the season started. And I came from a single parent household. So the only way I was going to college was if I was getting ball to get me there, and so decided to play against medical advice. So put the surgery off until after the season and basically was not the same player at all, which we can all imagine. I mean, you have an offensive line with one bum wheel, you're not going to be the same guy.
Right.
And so, week by week, the offers dried up, and I could see, and looking back now, I could see the toll it took on me mentally because I was pressing so hard, right? Because each week it was like less coaches were returning my calls, and then it was like nobody's calling me, and so all of a sudden I'm sitting here and I'm out in the cold, and I'm like, man, what happened? What went on here? Like I went from being on top of the world to I can't even get somebody. I mean, there's a Division II university that was right down the road from me. They're 20 minutes from my house. Dude wouldn't even return my call. And I'm like, man, this is crazy, right? So flash forward, end of my senior year, got the opportunity to play in an all-star game. And who would become my college coach was actually in the stands because his son was on the other team. And so he saw me play. He had seen me play before. He finally reached out and said, "Hey, listen, we didn't think we had a shot at you, obviously because we thought you were going to go somewhere bigger, but we'd love to have you on campus. Check it out." And so I went down to Susquehanna University with my best friend at the time, and we both just fell in love. Man, it was like this is where we need to be. This is the university for us. So we went to school there, and honestly, man, I wasn't emotionally mature enough to handle it. Like I said, growing up in a single parent household, I had all the responsibility of helping to raise my brother, being the man of the house, all this stuff. So I think that put my ego in check because I always had somebody watching me, right? And so it tempered a lot of those childish and egotistical impulses and behaviors that a lot of kids would have had at 13 to 18 years old. I didn't get a chance to have those because I had to act like a grown up.
Hmm.
And now they put me on college campus. You're this highly recruited dude, that's not supposed to be here. And all of a sudden, man, all that childishness came out. All of it came out. And I completely was a nightmare off the field. And I can say that objectively now after 10 years of coaching, man, I was a nightmare. And so throughout my college career, man, I came in as the number one recruit in my class, not even close. Me and my roommate were the top two, and I ended up not starting or taking a single snap until my sophomore year, and then I didn't start a single game my entire college career. So it was hard, it was difficult, it was a lot of growing up. I ended up blowing my knee two more times. Ended up getting medically disqualified after my junior season, and looking back now, it was the most important thing that ever happened to me because it forced me to disconnect from the identity of Kitch as the football player and become David as the man and figure out who am I as a human. Because up to that point, all I identified was I'm Kitch, I play football, right? Like that's who I was. And so it was the most important thing I ever had. So that's my playing career in a nutshell. It's basically, it would have started out like a great movie and then ended like a sad one, you know? So I think if you really look at my playing career again, it's one of those things that I think if I didn't have that time away from the game, I never would have became the coach or the man that I am today. Like I think I needed football to be taken away from me.
Man, that's Dr. Piss was joking that we look like we could be brothers or twins at the beginning. But hell, I mean, just the football stories from high school to college. I didn't suffer my injuries till I got to college, but just how it kind of, you know, for me, I was one of the top recruits from my class, and I played, you know, I played 3 years. My first year, I broke my foot, but the last 3 years I played through 4 knee surgeries in 2 seasons, and kind of like you know, if you from the first 22 years of my life, if you ask me who I was Ronnie the football player. That's all it was. This all I knew, all I thought I was good at, the whole 9 yards. And for it to kind of like, you know, just in my face, just kind of blow up and know that this is where it stops at. Yeah, man, that's powerful, man. So in that transition coming out of college, coming into the real world, how was that adjustment? What were some of the things that you had to battle through, and what were some of the challenges you experienced as you went from Kitch to David?
Man, it was tough. It was really tough because I had 2 years, well, a year and a half left of college after football, right? So I had to figure it out. And I lived with all football players. I lived in a house of 6 football players, you know, and I was the only one that wasn't playing anymore. And so I really had to find myself. And I don't think I really did until after school. Like there was a lot of times like I didn't go, and it's something I still regret to this day, but like one of my best friends, who was one of my roommates, was a 2-time All-American, and I didn't go to either of the ceremonies because I couldn't be around the game. Like I didn't go to a single game for the rest of my college career. And so I had a lot of soul searching to do, right? And so I graduate with a business degree. And, you know, at that point, I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? You know, and so obviously as most, you know, young kids and kids that came up in a poor house, I looked and said, I want to make some bread. Like I'm ready to put some money in my pocket. And so I got into tech sales, and I got into, I was selling cloud solutions and IT systems to medium-sized businesses in Pennsylvania. So, and I was good at it, man. I was making money. And I had a coach from high school that had now gotten an opportunity to become a head coach somewhere. And he called me and he said, hey, would you come and just run the weight room for us? And I'm like, yeah, I could do that. So I'm doing that on the side and making this money, you know, selling IT systems. I'm shirt and tied up, the whole deal. And right before the season started, his offensive and defensive line coach quit. And so he said, you know, Kitch, would you stay on and coach on the field too? And I'm like, man, I'm making all this money over here. You know, I love doing what I'm doing in the weight room, but like, I don't know. And he's like, nah, man, I need you right now. So I was like, all right. So I stay on, I coach, and it was like, man, it was like a drug. Like it was like, nah, this is where I need to be. Like I love this game. I love these kids. I love this impact that I'm having. Like this is what I want to do. And so there was a lot of soul searching through that time, you know, and kind of the breaking point came. I remember being at our office Christmas party, and you know, everybody in that industry is making money, and so they show up. You know, they're suited and booted. Everybody's looking good, drinking high class stuff and enjoying themselves, smoking cigars. And I remember looking around the room, and I'm just like, man, this is not who I want to be. Like this isn't it. You know, even though I'm making this money, like this is not it. And so I walked outside, and it's freezing cold, and I'm like sitting out there for a minute. Like I didn't want to go back in, and that was when I made the decision. I was like, nah, I'm done. I'm going to coach. And so got the opportunity, you know, to talk to my family and say, hey, listen, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go coach. And I don't know how, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm doing it, you know? And so I wrote a letter to every Division I school on the East Coast. And I said, I will quit my job and come work for you for free if you mentor me and teach me how to be a strength and conditioning coach. Now, mind you, I had a business degree, so I didn't even know if I could pass the certification exam required. So this was a complete, you know, stepping into the unknown, right?
Right.
And I got an opportunity at Robert Morris University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, So I quit my job. I loaded up the new Jeep I just bought with the paycheck that I was no longer getting. And I cruised out to Pittsburgh, man. And I found a 1-bedroom apartment. It was an old high school. And they turned them into 1-bedroom apartments, and they only took cash for rent. So you can imagine type of neighborhood I was in, right? And so I lived in there, man. I had a little plastic tote that was my coffee table. It was my TV stand. It was my study desk. And I worked. Man. I went to work 12 hours a day in that weight room, learning, trying to be a sponge. And then at night I would study for the exam, man. So I think I learned so much about myself during that time, right? Like you figure out, one, what it feels like to really be passionate about something again, like to really love. So I hadn't loved anything since I lost the game. You know, I was kind of living life on autopilot for those really 3 years. I was partying, I was having a good time. I was, you know what I mean? I had figured out the academic piece, but I didn't love it, you know? And so now I finally found something that I was passionate about again. And it helped me to be around people, because at that Division I level, like you're around guys that want to be great. You're around coaches that are constantly looking for that edge. And I was super fortunate to have one of the most phenomenal mentors, that's still a really close friend to this day, that showed me what it was like to be a good man as well, right? And so I was learning all these life lessons while I was coaching, man. So during that time was the most transformative time of my life.
Wow. And you speak on being able to step out on that passion and really choosing yourself. And you know, in our practice of therapy and everything, we talk to our clients about, you know, everything that's going on around you. There will never be the time for it to be the right time for you to choose you or to step out on something that you truly believe in. Sometimes you have to just put you first and step out on that faith, step out on that passion, and see what happens. You know, the worst thing that could ever happen is it does not work out. But here's what you do figure out. You figure out that you never have to spend the rest of your life wondering if it would have worked out, you know, and that right there can be a challenge. That can be a challenge for a lot of people, to really step out on that faith and step out on a passion or a dream they've always had, wondering, will it work out? Well, if you spend the rest of your life wondering, will it work out, as opposed to actually finding out, you will never know. And so that's powerful, man. Wow. That's really incredible, man.
It's those conversations that we have with our clients so often who are paralyzed by fear. And as you were speaking, I heard my son's grandmother, because she said for years and years and years, short-term sacrifice, long-term gain. And you, as you started talking, I was like, you embody that. You embody what it means to embrace short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. And to both of your points, it's what I say to my clients, like, they were like, Dr. Pitts, you know, I'm afraid of the unknown. And I'm like, well, it's humanly impossible to know everything. So are you gonna become, you know, agoraphobic and be just drowning in social anxiety and all of this fear that literally is paralyzing you and keeping you stuck in the discomfort, the dis-ease, and the discontent of the comfort zone that, truth be told, you hate? You hate being there, but because it's so familiar, because it's a pain that you've been having a romantic love affair with your whole freaking life, you're unwilling to punch fear and anxiety in the face, kick the hinges off kick the door off the hinges of that uncomfortable comfort zone and go out there. And here's the catch. It's not to suggest for a moment that you're not going to experience discomfort and fear and mishaps out there beyond the discomfort of your comfort zone. But isn't that life? I've been using this analogy all week, that this 16.9 ounce water bottle represents life. It represents life. And if all you have is a 4 ounce capacity for the curveballs that life throws at you, and you don't learn how to empty this cup, then you're going to live paralyzed by fear. You're going to be ensnared your whole freaking life. But at some point in time, you have to say, you know what? I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to take a chance. And what's so crazy about it is, and it's mind blowing to me, is that folk will scream, yell, hoop, holler, cuss, and fuss, and be in the streets fighting to somebody that calls them out their name. to somebody that says something sideways to their man or to their woman or whatever. But when it comes to fighting for themselves, when it comes for fighting for their hopes, their goals, their dreams, their aspirations, they curl up in a darn ball and act like a caterpillar, you know, in the middle of the fall. It drives me freaking nuts because I'm like, you'll fight for everything but yourself. You'll fight for everything but your hopes, goals, dreams, and aspirations. What's wrong with that picture? And you embody what it means to fight.
Yeah, and to your point, it's that capacity that you were talking about. To me, it was a perspective shift, right? And so it became this thing of like, I know I'm going to experience discomfort, fear, imposter syndrome. All these things are coming, right? But I'm so obsessed, and I use that word very, very strictly. Like, I'm so obsessed with the excitement of the person that I'm going to become on the other side of those things, that it raises my threshold to deal with those things as they're happening. Because it's like, I'm not in it for the immediate gratification right now. I'm in it for the person that I'm going to become, right? Because I had to go through all those things to become the person that I am now and to be able to stand on the stages and do the things, right? And so it's, you start to get excited if you can reframe it and get excited for adversity and get excited for those moments, like those butterflies. And I still get them. I was terrified so many times. I tell the story, like when I got the job at UNLV, I was 25 or 26. I had just come off being the youngest head strength coach in the country. I'm feeling myself, you know, and I get this opportunity at a Division I school. I take the job, and I remember standing in the bathroom at the airport having a breakdown and just being like, what if I'm not good? All the things that we wonder. What if I'm not good enough? What if I don't make it? What if all this hype about me is not true, right? What if I can't live up to the press? Because these dudes think they're getting the youngest head strength coach in the country. These dudes think they're getting this young, you know, phenom that's coming up the ranks. Like, what if I can't do it? And then I remember thinking to myself, like, everything you want is on the other side of fear. Everything you want, it's all there, you know? And so what are you going to do? You're going to walk out of here and just never answer anybody's calls and never explain to anyone what happened? Like, no, go get on the plane, man. Worst case scenario, you quit. You're in control, you know? So go. And it was, again, you know, every time I have those moments, it's a signal to me that it's like, no, this is it, dude. You're at the door of the next level right now. This is a good thing. You know, that's exciting.
You owned it. And that's what I tell my clients when people ask me about, you know, as you both can imagine, both athletically and clinically, you know, people are quick to say that we make things sound so easy. And I said, whoever said it was going to be easy? It's actually going to be hard. Right. But aren't you worth it? Aren't you worth doing the hard thing to prove to yourself that you can do it? And what I found is that a lot of people don't even realize that they're already winning. They're so busy dancing with these internal negative narratives that they have that they don't even realize that they actually are already winning. They have already overcome some of the greatest adversities that other people, you know, respectfully have killed themselves over. They are already thriving, but they're so busy focused on what they think they can't do that they believe their own lie. And it's like, hello, you're already a winner. You're already victorious, but you're so busy entertaining the distortions that you don't even realize that you're already winning. And you have to be willing to give yourself credit. You have to be willing to own the fear. People say all the time, well, Dr. Pitts, you make it sound easy and you do this and I couldn't do what you do the whole 9 yards. And I say, you know how I win? And it just, hand to God, true story. This is how I win. I admit that I'm nervous. I admit that, you know what? Woo! This is intimidating. Look at mug. You look, being the dumbest person in the room, because, you know, we're taught at this level, right? We're taught the last thing on earth you want to be is the smartest person in the room all the time. So I keep putting myself in these environments where, you know, obviously I'm not dumb, but I'm far, 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 far from the smartest person in the room. And I will say, this is intimidating. This is a little uncomfortable, but you know what? I'm going to metaphorically sit at the feet of all of this knowledge, all of this power, all of this greatness, all of this excellence, all of this expertise. And what is it, Ronnie? You said it time and time and time again. We all sit down to go to the bathroom the same. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. The only difference between us and them is some of them have more money than I do. Some of them may have more degrees than I do. Some of them may have more experience than I do. But at the end of the day, we all living and breathing the same air. And I'm not going to allow my distorted perception of, this pedestal that I've put you on rob me of the opportunity to have access to greatness and excellence and these amazing opportunities that God has set in my lap.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's reframing the narrative, right? Like you said, you've done all these things, you've gone through all these things in your life. Like to me, those are data points, right? To me, those are data points. That's evidence that I am who I think I am, and that I'm capable of the things that I think I'm capable of, right? And I talk about this a lot with my coaching clients and with some of the people that I work with. Like, it's not arrogance by any means, because there's evidence. And so when I look back at the trail of things behind me and I say, hey, I came from a single parent household. Statistically, I shouldn't be here. I'm a Black business owner traveling the country talking to CEOs about leadership. You kidding me? Come on now, right? So like all these things that I've done, I look at it and again, for me, the trigger phrase is I look at that stuff and I go, I'm a bad dude. Like I really am, like I really have it like that. And so does that mean that I'm not afraid of the next thing? No, it just means, hey, I've already slayed these dragons. I deserve to be in this arena. I don't know if I'm going to win, but I deserve the opportunity to compete to win.
David, I wanted you to so after you got the job at UNLV, was working as a strength and conditioning coach, you mentioned that when the pandemic came about, that you had this idea to want to open up Edge Leadership Academy. Take us back to COVID, what it was like at UNLV, what your experience was like at UNLV, and kind of walk us through that transition of how COVID it sounds like maybe COVID may have sped that process up for you. So kind of walk us through that part of your life right there.
Yeah, so I had left UNLV. I was at Georgia Southern at that time. So I'd made the transition to men's basketball at that time, which kind of makes the story a little bit better, actually. So we finished the season and we're playing great ball. I mean, we were hooping at this point. Mm-hmm. And we, again, using my favorite term, we just got done dog walking Georgia State in the conference tournament. So, at the end of the day, we showed whose state it was, had the opportunity to go to March Madness, right? So NCAA tournament, the show. And we're on the bus and we're on our way to the airport in Atlanta. And we get a phone call from the athletic director. Shut it down. Bring it back to campus. COVID's happening. They shut the tournament down. And so we're like, what, bro? Like, we're a mid-major school. We just battled for this play-in spot. We're playing the best ball. For some of these seniors, they'll never touch a basketball again in a competitive sense. And so we're all sitting there like, what is going on? So I was sitting next to the head coach, and we take the bus ride back to campus, and he didn't speak the whole time, which was odd. And so we get to campus, and I'm like, hey, coach, what do you want to do here? And he's like, nothing, go see your family. And I'm like, my family's in Pennsylvania. We're in Georgia. Like, you realize that implies that I'm going to now drive back to Atlanta and get on the plane and get out of here, right? And he's like, yeah, go see your family. So I get on the plane, fly to PA, and I get off the plane and I get an ESPN alert that he had taken a job at another school. So while we were on the bus, he had accepted a role at another university. And at that level, you're tied to your head coach, right? So if he leaves, you're in limbo. You got two choices now. You either wait for him to call you and say, hey, I'm going to bring you with me, or you go to the AD and you say, hey, I want to throw my hat in the ring. Tell whoever you're bringing in that I'm willing to interview for my job, which is a humbling experience, especially considering the fact we just came off a 23 win season. I had, a national strength and conditioning All-American. I mean, I did everything right? So hypothetically, I should not be interviewing for my job this season. Right. And so they bring in the new head coach. He says to me, you can interview over the summer. Your summer will be a working interview. Now, this is like the height of the pandemic. So there's not a lot of data points to go off of here because our interaction with the kids is very limited because of the pandemic. Right. And so I'm like, man, I don't know how this is going to go. Like, I very well might get canned here. And so, I had a conversation with one of our players at the end of the previous season that had really sparked Edge Leadership Academy. That's where the idea came from. Was he came in my office and he was one of the best leaders that I'd ever coached. And he came in my office and he said, Coach, I've been the best player on every team I've ever been on. and everybody's always telling me to lead, but nobody ever taught me how. And the entrepreneur in me was like, boom, business. The coach in me and the guy with the master's degree in sports psychology was like, oh, this is a problem. Like, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's start talking this out. And so we did. And it formed this idea. And I had already built leadership curriculums. I had already built leadership councils, things like that throughout my career. And so now, faced with this choice, in the summer, I started to kind of put pen to paper and like, okay, what would this look like if I actually taught this curriculum, if I actually built this out, et cetera. And I got to the end of the summer, and the head coach, to my surprise, called me and said, hey, can we meet? I said, yeah, come in. He's like, listen, man, the kids love you. We're willing to offer you a contract extension and a pay raise. And it was like the moments in the movies, like where everything slows down and you're just like, same thing that happened to me at the office party. This isn't where I'm meant to be. Like, there's something bigger. And so, I said, hey, coach, with all due respect, I appreciate the offer. Can I have 24 hours? And at that level, that's a big ask. That's a big ask. So he gave me the 24 hours. I went home. I Googled, how do you start an LLC? And I figured out that I could get it done. And I called my mom and my family, and I said, hey, I'm done. I'm walking away. It's over. And so that's how Edge Leadership Academy was born, man. It was a wild ride. Launched a consulting firm and a speaking business in the middle of a pandemic, which allowed you to not be face to face with people. So very, very wild time for me. Mm-hmm. But one of the best moves I've ever made in my career.
That's dope. You're actually our second guest that we've had who was a former football player, former coach, and during the height of the pandemic actually opened up their own, consulting agency, mental health company and stuff like that for athletes, coaches, and things like that. Which is, just speaks to, like you said, the passion, the faith, the just not, and I always tell people, faith is not about knowing what the end is going to be guaranteed. It's about knowing that I'm willing to embrace the process and embrace the objectives, which help me get to that goal. And a lot of times, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just, to kind of further your point, like COVID made a lot of coaches realize the gravy train can end at any time. Right. It opened our eyes because for so long, right, college athletics was too big to fail. Like, there was nothing that could stop the wheel. There was too many people getting rich off of it. So they weren't going to let college athletics stop. And then all of a sudden the pandemic came and it put a crunch on all these budgets and all these things. And you saw coaches getting furloughed. You saw people getting pay cuts. You saw staffs getting reduced. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're not recession proof. Hold on a minute. I'm putting the well-being of my future, my family, my community in the hands of 18 to 22-year-old kids. And for lack of a better term, rich old men, to build my future, right? That doesn't make sense. That's not a winning equation. And so I think a lot of coaches during that time said, hey, how do I take control of my future? How do I at least have some sort of hand on the wheel in where this thing is going? Because it can go off the rails quick and there's no recovery plan.
Right. You mentioned that when your player came to you and talked about, the inadequate resources of how to become a leader. And you mentioned that up until that point, you had some leadership curriculums and stuff that you had worked on in the past and things like that. Talk to us more about, just for your perspective, why leadership means so much to you and, how leadership has been so impactful on your life. And, even one of the things I was thinking about is, a lot of times when we talk to people about, little traumas, big traumas and stuff like that, one of the traumas that I think oftentimes is overlooked is the trauma of being parentified at a very early age. You mentioned that, having to become the man of your house at such an early age and things like that. And from those teenage adolescent years, you had to be something that even for you did not know how to be, but you figured it out and did it. How much of even that right there influenced your ability to really, create this leadership academy and things like that?
Massively. I'll be the first to tell you my childhood shaped a lot of who I am, right? Because I had to learn a lot of those lessons the hard way and make mistakes and go through them, right? And then having the opportunity to be in leadership roles through athletics and then as a coach, like the curriculum that I had built was very rudimentary at that point because I didn't, it was just secondary or tertiary even to my role as a strength and conditioning coach. It was just something else that I could bring to the table that would help our teams. And so it was very rudimentary, but it just started with like some self-awareness things and then working through some of the different quote unquote soft skills, which I hate calling them that. But you know, learning to be an empathetic listener and learning to communicate better, just some of the things that we all know are vital to leadership, but a lot of young men and young women struggle with. But I think for me, when I look at how my childhood impacted that, I had kind of this patchwork mentorship through my childhood, right? Because I was seeking leadership from the people around me and whoever I could get to that I felt was a strong leader. So obviously I learned to lead with love from my mother, right? That's hands down. My mom and my grandma, I learned to lead with love. And so I think that's different than a lot of young men, especially African-American men, right? And so I learned to lead with love. The second piece was I had all these coaches that were pouring into me and teaching me these hard lessons, right? And so I had them as role models for what leadership looked like as well. And so I kind of got an opportunity to take the best of both worlds and kind of put it together into what I believed was a solid leader. And then as the curriculum grew, I kind of came at it from a different realm. Like a lot of us go the academic route and we get our master's degree, then we get a PhD, and we do all this research and we study, right? And we have the academic and the theory behind it. I kind of came at it backwards because I had 10 years of experience building leaders and culture. And now I was going to school and working on a PhD, and I had a master's degree in sports psych. So I was able to put labels on what I was doing, on why this worked. I was able to say, hey, this is why this certain communication style works. This is why this team came back stronger after a big loss. Well, that's a shared trauma. That's a trust building experience, right? And so all these things kind of added in. And so that's kind of how it came to be. But yeah, there's no doubt, man, my childhood had a huge part in the way that I lead as a man. And the other thing is from a socioeconomic background and even just a cultural background. Like I was a Black man raised by a white mother in a white family in a white neighborhood, right? And so when I got to college and I was around brothers, I became a social chameleon because now it's like I can hang out with the white boys and listen to country music. But I can also hang out with the frats, and I can go and do that. You know what I mean? I can go wherever I need to be. I can be there, and I'm comfortable there. And so I became this kind of like conduit between them, a liaison, right? Like I was able to bounce between groups. And my roommate was the same. He was 6'4", 300 pounds, Puerto Rican, right? But he was raised in a white community as well. And so he was the same way. He could bounce between. And I think that led me to the type of coach that I was, right? And so that's a leadership trait as well. Like we all talk about code switching and the ability to be able to, speak to different people. Like that was a skill that I taught a lot of our African-American athletes at UNLV. Like we had kids that came from Compton that had never interacted with, Caucasian leaders or anything like that. So that shook them. And they were like, Kitch, why do you talk to them differently than you talk to us? And I'm like, oh, okay, let me teach you something. Because right now you're playing checkers. I want you to play chess, right? Because if you can learn this game, I'm not a threat when I step in the room with them because I can speak their language, right? And so now I can move in lanes that I wouldn't have had access to before. I can still be me. I can still come in with earrings, Jordans, my tattoos. I can still be me, but I can move in different lanes, right? And so that, again, just another thing from my childhood that added into, some of the leadership things that I talk about now.
You two are related. Y'all are the same person. Y'all are the same person. And David, what you just talked about clinically is the intersection of culture, right? And how, as I reflect upon what you said, up until maybe 3-4 months ago, I had not used cultural identity as part of my intake assessment and my initial screening process to guide how I was structuring the therapeutic process with my clients. And so much, a sign of the times, right? I mean, we know that it's always been there, but the cultural inequities that we're seeing in society today is deeply impacting the mental health of society so deeply. I'm like, okay, I've got to incorporate this into my work so that the conclusion part of my intake process is this holistic, collaborative piece of 5 activities that I call discovering the power of your past. And I slid the cultural identity piece into that informs me of how the intersection of culture is informing how my clients are thinking, feeling, functioning, and navigating life. And it has been profound to just understand and I have a diverse clientele, but to just really understand how that intersection of culture is informing how my couples are showing up to each other, particularly if I'm dealing with a couple that's interracial or biracial, or whatever the appropriate terminology is, and looking at that, my Black clients versus my white clients, or my Asian clients, or Indian clients, or whatever the case may be. And it's such a huge element that I don't think that we have enough focus on. And I can't help but to wonder what that looks like in the athletic arena, right? Part of that intersection of cultural activity that I do with them is I have them to share what part of their culture makes them feel the most empowered and what part of their culture makes them feel the least empowered as it relates to race and ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, and the whole 9 yards. And I kid you not, the bulk of my African-American male clients feel the least empowered being Black men. And I'm like, that's powerful. What do? We have to do something with that information because, as you know, I've got several clients that are athletes, but I have a lot of clients that aren't. But what does that look like athletically? How do we, and particularly you with your PhD, right? How can we incorporate the intersection of culture into the mental health work that we're doing with our athletes and with our teams and with our coaches? We've got to shine a much brighter spotlight on the intersection of culture in the athletic arena. And then, of course, we already know when you get to the professional level, the 3 major sports are dominated by Black men and women. So we've got to do something with that information. I just wanted to add that because I know you've got to do your dissertation and defend and be all.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about like you gave me so much to think about there, and I think it's so interesting because I've been part of cultures within teams where it becomes this melting pot, right? And the first one that comes to mind is UNLV, because we had a lot of Pacific Islanders, we had a lot of African Americans, we had, kind of the for lack of better terms, the corn-fed Midwestern, Caucasians, right, that came in, and so it was really this interesting dynamic where everybody kind of melted together, and all of a sudden you heard, the kids from Oakland and the Bay Area and that using words like "uso," right, which is a Samoan word, and so you saw it, and it was really beautiful. Like we played Hawaii at Hawaii, and the families came out, and so to see the Samoan culture and the Hawaiian culture and how they embraced our team was really cool, and to see our guys tasting these foods, right, and doing these things. So I think that there is those examples of it really being beautiful, but I also, to your point, I don't think that at times we acknowledge it enough, right? Like, I don't think that we acknowledge that, hey, like, yes, I know sports is supposed to be this even playing field, but like we are all still different. We all still come with different experiences and different values, right? And for me as a coach, it was something that was never lost on me because I knew how and just an example, I knew I came from a single parent household. I knew I didn't react well to strong male role models because I never had one. And so if you're going to yell in my face, to me, that's a threat, right? Because that's the interaction that I had with the male in my household, right? So to me, I'm like, all right, you're going to yell at me. You're not going to get what you want from me now. Now I'm 10 toes down right here, and this is going to be a problem, right? And so I think as coaches, we have to be aware of those types of experiences that our student athletes may have. And again, that's generalizing sociocultural or socioeconomic and cultural differences. But there are certain things versus like we had a young man on a program that was of Japanese, and he was of Japanese origin, and his interactions with male role models were extremely like, yes, sir, no, sir. What we said went, whether he thought it was right, wrong, or indifferent, because that's how he was born and raised. And so for us as coaches, you have to not be aware of that. I think one is leaving tools out of your toolbox.
Right.
Two, it's doing a disservice to your student athlete. And three, it's hurting your team. It's hurting your team because you have that respect for that. So some of the things that we've done that I've really enjoyed were like allowing our student athletes to highlight their ethnicity and highlight their interests and highlight their background and inform and educate and teach their teammates like, hey, this is what it's like to be from, you know, Hawaii, or this is what it's like to be from Chicago or wherever, you know, these are the experiences that I had. I think that that's really, really powerful. But yeah, I think, you know, to your point, we do have to do a much better job of acknowledging it. And I think in athletics, a lot of times we use the blanket term of melting pot, and we say that athletics is a melting pot. So we don't have to, and again, we all know how we feel about this. We don't have to see color, right? Hold on a minute. We're taking the power away from all these experiences and these values and these beautiful things that these people are bringing to our locker rooms and our buildings. Like, let's do that. But without getting too polarizing, I think there has to be an acknowledgement of who's in charge and who's in positions of power in those hallways, right? Because I can't tell you how many staffs I was one of one or two Black coaches.
I was when you said I don't want to, polarize, and I was like, I think, and you can relate to me when I say this, one of the things I've learned being biracial is that you see how polarizing one side of our genetic makeup makes a lot of things. And to your point, they're oftentimes in those leadership roles. And we've seen this shift from where, like, you know, even going back 20, 30 years ago when we were playing in high school and stuff like that. I don't know, how old are you, but we never asked how old are you?
31.
Oh, you're older than me. So yeah, we played in the same generation and everything. So you saw how, like, just even how football coaches treated players from when we were playing little league in high school to how they treat them now. Like, you just can't go yell at anybody's kid no more. You can't get in their face, call them everything but a blessed child of God, any of those things, because you're gonna have somebody on your butt in a while. But to your point, yes, it's easy for people to say, yes, teams are a melting pot. It would also be fair to say that this country is a melting pot, and it's been a melting pot since its inception. And we saw how that worked out. You know, when you ignore other cultures, when you are not mindful or appreciative of the cultural differences that we have. I always say, you know, we live in a country where our differences are demonized against us, as opposed to being appreciated and just welcoming. You know, and I think that's kind of human nature. When something is different, when we don't know what something is, we naturally get defensive, or just, you know, our curiosity puts us on not at ease. Whereas when we come with, like you said, when we lead with love, when we come with, you know, vulnerability and the acceptance of wanting to learn about the other person, beautiful things can happen. But that has to start from the top, the leadership, all the way down through the players, the staff, and things like that. David, we got like maybe 2 or 3 minutes left, and man, this conversation has been so amazing. And we got to get you back on another episode this season to finish this conversation. One of the last questions I wanted to ask you, and even go over a couple minutes, that's fine. I wanted to ask you, you know, because, you know, what you do as a leadership consultant, leadership coach, and things like that, and your expertise as a former player, former strength coach, former coach, and things like that. If this was a chance for you to speak to the audience out there listening and everything, why should people invite you onto their campuses and speak on leadership and speak on all the values you have? And what message would you like the athletes and coaches to know about why they should have you and come and speak to their teams?
Yeah, I think it comes down to very simply understanding that as a coach, my mission was very simple, and I always said it when I had the opportunity to meet with recruits. I would always have them look around my office and say, what do you not see that you saw in the other offices that you were in? And the answer was always the same: well, championship rings. And I said, right. And it's not because I haven't won them. You've seen my resume. I've won rings. But to me, the relationships are always more important than the rings. So what you do see in my office are pictures of me and former student athletes. You see wedding invitations. You see, things like that. I'm the guy that when my former students and my former student athletes have a child, I'm the one they're FaceTiming in the hospital. Hey, coach, I want you to meet my baby. Right. And those moments to me are what matters. Now, how does that translate to me as a businessman? Because my mission is the same, right? Connection is more important than content. If I come into your business, your school, your organization, your team, like this is not a one-time thing. I don't do canned presentations. I don't do one size fits all. I want to come in and I want to be the driving force behind your success. Connection matters more to me than content, right? And so I think that's what sets us apart. And I love the fact that I can proudly say, as a business owner, we spend $0 on marketing. Zero.
Hey, that's lit.
Our clients, our edge family, as we call them, that's our sales force, because we come in and we work with them and they want other people to work with us, right? And so to me, that's what speaks for itself, right? We have a whole sheet that we'll send to, a prospective client if they come to us, and it's just edged by the numbers. And it straight up, it tells you, listen, here's what we've done. We've worked with, 35 NCAA teams. We've had 7 of them make the NCAA tournament. We've had 15 conference champions. We've had all these things, right, all the way down. But the number that I'm most proud of, we have 0 one-off clients. Once we work with somebody, they bring us back. We become a part of that family and that fabric. We go to the golf outings. We go to the fundraisers. Like, that's what makes us different. And it's because I was a coach first and a businessman second. I'm always going to be a coach first, right? So for all the people out there that may want to bring us in, like, just know you're going to get the real. You're going to get authentic. We're going to come in, we're going to lead from the front, and we're going to challenge your culture and your organization to be a better version of yourselves. But we're going to give you the tools that you can use today to implement that stuff. So, that's what we're about. Our motto is built, not born. I like to think that I'm a poster boy for that. And I like to bring that to every organization that we work with, man. So, that's kind of my pitch and who we are.
Yes, sir, man. Well, look, y'all, if you want to have your culture transformed, if you want to have, come closer, be able to connect, have true leaders, have authentic leaders, please reach out to David Kitchen at the Edge Leadership Academy. David, we really appreciate you coming on, man. Dr. Pitts, any final thoughts, closing remarks, or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to share this, and I want our listeners and each of you, I want you to envision what I'm saying, if you will, or connect the dots to what I'm about to share within the context of life, sports, and behavioral and mental health. Wisdom is the ability to recognize difference in environments, moments, and people. Your ability to discern the divine difference in everything around you decides your success. The law of difference has never been questioned. Atheists, Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Protestants, Catholics, Gentiles, no one questions the existence of difference. It is so obvious to all of us. Light versus darkness, left versus right, eyes versus ears, hands versus feet. The law of difference is all around you. Difference communicates. Difference is a warning. Difference is preparation. Difference deserves celebration, recognition. Difference is valuable. The purpose of difference is completion. Nothing God makes is whole. Nothing. Everything is a part. Your eyes require a view to see. Your ears require sound to hear. Your mind requires thought to think. Nothing succeeds alone. Your difference is necessary for another's completion. There are 7 differences that will decide your success. Identify your personal difference. Identify the difference in a moment. Identify the difference in those around you. Identify the difference in an opportunity. Identify the difference in an environment. Identify the difference in the season you are entering. Identify the difference in right and wrong. I want to birth such an awareness of your uniqueness within you that you are able to embrace it, nurture it, and guard it. I desire for you to be able to market it so that others can know your distinctive difference from those around you, that your difference can be treasured and ultimately rewarded. Sameness creates comfort. Difference creates your reward. Celebrate, seize, and identify your difference and enjoy great success. That is actually shared with me from one of my mentors, Dr. Mike Murdoch. And I just wanted to share that because I think that it's so fitting, like I said, in life, in sports, in behavioral and mental health. And then the last thing that I want to do is I just want to shout out our hometown hero, Salem, New Jersey, JT, Jonathan Taylor, Indianapolis Colts, got that $42 million contract.
Y'all can sure use him in Dallas.
Yeah.
Y'all should have gave him that money. I mean, y'all got rid of Zeke. Y'all had an extra 49 million sitting on the side somewhere.
There was no way. There was no way the Eagles were going, because the Eagles won him, because that's home, right? There's no way that the Eagles were going to let Jerry Jones outbid them for him if it came to that, because he wanted to leave the Colts, but now he's locked in for a minute. So just celebrating him, honoring him. His stats are ridiculous. He's a beast.
I hope he stays healthy. I definitely hope he stays healthy.
And that's the thing. Hoping he stays healthy. So that's it, Ronnie. That's all I have. You can close this out.
Well, David, once again, man, thank you for coming on, man. You are officially a part of the House Talk Pregame family for life, man. Anytime you ever want to drop back in, share some wisdom, and let us know how your doctoral journey is going, man. When are you anticipating on finishing?
Oh man, you put me on the spot here, Doug. I'm hoping within the next year.
Well, how about this? How about by the next time you come back on, man, it's gonna be Dr. Kitchen, man.
Yes, sir.
Hey man, that's the plan. That's the plan. Sir. Coming to a weight room in a stage near you.
Hey, amen. David, let the people know. Oh, go ahead.
Keep me in mind. Well, keep us both in mind for your future research endeavors too. I kid you not, I'm gonna go ahead and put it out here. I know my husband is about to blow my phone up because I've been trying to avoid going back to school, but I think I'm gonna have to do it. I think I'm gonna have to do it and go get me another one. Because I really want to laser focus on the sports psychology piece, because I think that marrying that to my LMFT and to my EDD is just going to give me a competitive edge with the work that I want to do in the athletic arena nationally.
Count it. Let's collaborate.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. Yeah. Go ahead, Ronnie.
No, so David, let the people know how they can reach out to you, how they can find you, and yeah.
Yeah, brother. So I keep it simple, man. I'm at Coach D Kitch on every social media. If you reach out to me on LinkedIn or Instagram, that is directly me. So I run those two myself. That's not my team. So if you really want to get in touch with just me, DM me through LinkedIn or Instagram, and you will get directly to me. You can kind of circumvent the system on that one. And then if you're looking for something a little bit more official, if you want to bring us in for your organization or anything like that, it's edgeleadershipacademy.com. And then we have our own podcast as well, the Built Not Born podcast, which comes out Wednesdays. So make sure you check that out on whatever service you listen to.
Hey man, you gotta get us on the podcast, man. We'd love to come on there and be guest on.
Let's have some fun. Yeah, let's have some fun, man. I'm in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, David, once again, man, we really appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much for blessing us with your presence and your insight and knowledge, man. Good luck to you on all your future endeavors. Good luck on you finishing up your doctorate degree and everything. And we're looking forward to have you back on the show, man. So that's episode 135, y'all. Catch us back here next Saturday, the 21st. We have another special guest coming on. So until then, everybody enjoy this weekend. Shout out to the Trojans. Shout out to it's Susquehanna, right?
Susquehanna, yeah, man, the Riverhawks.
Yes, sir. Shout out to the Riverhawks as well on their homecoming. And we'll catch y'all next weekend.